Have you ever been talking to an older person and you hear them say something along the lines of, kids these days, they're just not as well behaved as they used to be, or kids these days, they're out of control. And have you ever sat there and thought to yourself, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. It can't be all on the kid. They're just a kid. Maybe there's some other factor that's involved. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with, would it be controversial to say bad parents? Maybe some parents are bad. Maybe some parents aren't fit to be parents. And there's a lot of different categories that you can go with this. There are some people that are, like I said, just bad parents. They're not good disciplinarians. There's a whole lot of other things that we'll get into. Then there's also a category of people that are truly unfit parents. And that starts to get into a little bit more of like a criminal, horrible people that is on a whole nother level sort of thing. That's not who I'm talking about. Plenty of better people than I have talked about those people. What I'm talking about are people who, at the fundamental core, that don't instill any sort of discipline or kindness or manners or regard for other people in their kids, and then they take those kids out into public. We've seen these people before. We've seen these children before. You get like 3 or 4 different families, all maybe they're on vacation, and they all come into the restaurant with different combinations of children under the age of 10, and the parents just go F off at the end of the table and do whatever they want to be doing, having appetizers and beverages and desserts and conversations about who's sleeping with who, not knowing that several of the people at that table are sleeping with each other, and it's not their wife or husband. Meanwhile, their children are at the other end of the table, and those children are just screaming at the top of their lungs, running around in circles around the table, throwing things, going up to other tables and bothering people. They're bothering people. They're sprinting as fast as they can into the thigh of an employee or another person walking around. Now, this may seem like an oddly specific example, but this just happened to me. It happened to me at a Buffalo Wild Wings. Why was I at a Buffalo Wild Wings? Because I'm white trash. And a lot of people don't like hearing that, but here I am saying it, telling it like it is, like some sort of tough guy stand-up comedian standing on stage going, hey, you guys, you want to do some crowd work clips? I really need to go, I could really use some virality. I need some crowd work clips so that I can have a career in this industry. I think I'm talking about a different subject now. Back on the topic of bad parents, specifically about parents that don't discipline their children, and I don't mean spanking their children. I don't mean that, although I was spanked, again, rural Missouri, raised by people that came up in all various parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and several other hell places. I'm just kidding. I love the Midwest so much. But I'm talking about people that just don't teach their kids basic decency or the ability to not have a complete meltdown temper tantrum out in public. This happens all the time at grocery stores. You'll see like a kid begging for a toy or begging to go home, whatever. And honestly, I get it. I understand that completely. I want a toy. I want to go home. I want both of those things. There's a rising thing in this country where adults are buying more toys than children. Have you heard about this? And I think that is indicative of a much larger problem that maybe one day I'll touch on. Back to the bad parents. And you see it all the time. These parents are just ignoring their children throwing these temper tantrums or going absolutely buck wild in public. Because it's not always a temper tantrum. Sometimes they just let their kids go nuts. Sometimes a mom will take their kids to Target or a dad will take their kids to Target and go, you guys meet me back here in 20 minutes. And these are like little kids. I've seen little kids by themselves, like we're talking elementary school age, just running up and down the aisles at a grocery store, screaming, knocking things over, whatever. And the thing that really gets to me is when the parent sees that behavior and doesn't immediately pounce on them and reprimand them for what they're doing. Instead, they giggle. Have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen a parent giggle at their child's bad behavior in public? I've seen this. I've seen parents watch their children knock things down and throw things down onto the floor at Walmarts and Targets this side of the Mississippi and the other. And they go, isn't he creative? It's not creative. It's not fun. It's not good. Somebody has to clean that up. And just because that child makes messes at your house that you usually have to clean up, what are you getting, some sort of sick thrill out of knowing that you don't have to pick up the mess this time? Well, it's someone else's problem, and it ought to be yours. So I think it's just laziness. I think it's laziness and ego, and honestly, a lot of people don't really care about their children, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like a lot of parents have children just as a status thing. Now, this may be something that I'm kind of reaching at, because again, I don't have children. I don't even have a dog, because I know that I wouldn't be good at either of those things. Yet. Me in 10 years, let's see if this is true. I just think that some people have children just for the Instagram photos. You know what I mean? I have children just for the Facebook photos. You see these people all the time that almost treat their children as accessories. They treat them as handbags that they just pose with and go, look at it, look, I did one too, didn't I do one? Isn't it fun? You also, everyone here at this party did one. We're at this baby's birthday party, but for some reason there's an open bar for the moms and dads. What? Why? And you know what else? You know what else is a big part of this? Bad parents lead to children with bad behavior, and children with bad behavior grow up. They become teenagers that behave badly, and then adults that behave badly. A child that sprints up and down the aisles at a store or knocks things over or whatever. I know I keep using that as an example, but it's honestly the best one I can come up with, because why are you not just standing next to the shopping cart with mom or dad or grandma, whoever's with you, just dutifully kind of shopping with them? That's what I used to do. I used to beg for toys with the best of them, but I would always stand right next to the shopping cart. I did not have any free reign over things. One time, my grandma, we were walking into a Walmart, and I started to wander off, and she grabbed my arm, she spun me around, and she said, the last little boy that walked away from his family in this Walmart, a man walked up to him and cut his head off. That is a real thing that my grandmother told me one time when I was like 6 years old. So that might be coloring my experience with this topic specifically. I don't know. Could be worth looking into, maybe with a professional someday. But that day is not today. So what I was saying is, these people, they grow up into terrible adults. Kids that have no regard for other people's personal space or how fast they're going while they're running around bumping into things. Those kids grow into teenagers who get behind the wheels of cars, like my last video. Please check it out after this. And they get behind the wheels of these cars and they just start driving wildly. They start racing with their friends on public roadways, causing all sorts of disasters to happen that could have completely been avoided if they simply didn't want to just kind of go a little bit fast and be a little bit naughty, because maybe they missed a couple hugs when they were younger, or maybe they missed a couple scoldings when they were younger. And then those teenagers grow into adults, and those adults start to really mess with stuff. Those adults that were bad children raised by bad parents and that became bad teenagers become bad adults. And we've seen these people. A lot of them become managers at places, and a lot of you have had to work for a person that has a horrible attitude or is a horrible human being, and a lot of it stems from the fact that they were never told no, not once in their entire life, so now they're making it your problem. And isn't that fun for everyone involved? When the middle manager at your day job has decided to go on a power trip just because they feel like they can, because they know you need this job. They know that you need this paycheck, and they have all the power in the world as long as it doesn't reach past the parking lot. If I could talk directly to some of these poor parents that let their children kind of run amok and never do anything about it, I would say this: zoom out. Zoom out a little bit. Look at your kids. Be skeptical of your children's behavior. That was something that I am now really thankful for when I was a kid, is that my mom was skeptical of me. She could tell when I was lying. She could tell when I was doing the thing wrong in school and the teacher was right instead of vice versa. That's the thing, not to sound like a boomer, but I feel like back in my day, this is going all the way back to what I said at the beginning of the video. Unbelievable. Back when I was in school, when you got in trouble and the parent had to come to school, the parents were on the side of the teacher 100% of the time. Now, whether that's good or not, I'm not entirely sure. But just saying, sometimes kids are conniving little liars, and parents that stay on top of that sort of stuff, I think that that's a good thing. And maybe I'm crazy, but I just don't know. So I would tell them just to be a little bit more skeptical. Maybe engage with your children a little bit more. Maybe don't just slap an iPad in front of their face like it's a face hugger from Alien. You see, don't just treat your child as something that needs to be distracted. Treat your child as a human being that needs to be raised the right way, because that's exactly what they are. Is that again? I just don't feel like it's that crazy of me to say. Now, can bad parents be fixed? I don't know, because a fundamental truth about Americans especially is no one likes to be told they're wrong, and nobody ever believes that what they're doing is actually wrong. And isn't that a wonderful way to live? Isn't that a wonderful way to run a country? Isn't that a wonderful way to run a planet, to be quite honest? There's no wonder the aliens don't really want to come down and talk to us. I think that they're out there. Now, this is getting into a completely different topic, but I think that the aliens are out there, and I think they want nothing to do with us, because they look down on us and say, wow, those dumb hairless apes are still just throwing stuff at each other over land and what they look like. Oh, well, I don't want to be a part of that. And look, that one's letting their child rip open a bunch of toys at Walmart that they're not going to actually pay for, and then hastily put it back on the shelf behind some other stuff and act like it didn't happen. Teaching the child that it's okay to destroy property and ruin something as long as you can get away with it and hide it. Isn't that a fun lesson? Anyway, back to the other galaxy where things are made of gold and soup is free. And I don't know if they can be fixed because their parents probably sucked too. A lot of this is generational. A lot of this is, yeah, you can blame the parents, and it is ultimately on them to sort of step up and change things and maybe break the cycle. But you can only do what you know, and if all you know is bad parenting because your parents were terrible, it might get passed down to the grandbabies. Ultimately, what I want to say at the end of this video here is thank you to the good adults that are out there doing the hard work of maybe disappointing a child in the short term to raise a good citizen in the long term. And we need more people like you in this world, even though this world, a lot of bad stuff is happening that may be completely unpreventable, and if you turn on the news, it seems like everything's burning all the time, and that the enemy is at the gate, and maybe this might be the end, folks. I hope it's not. Please subscribe. Thank you all so much.